these yoga practices gave me the experience that allow me to love myself and like find myself really cool and fascinating. And of course, like there was an ego ballooning in that process, and that to get purified, and it's still always being purified. That's what relationships are for. There's no emotion is good or bad. Hot emotions aren't good or bad. Watery emotions aren't good or bad. And so then when you can start to investigate it like this, it allows us to depersonalize a bit of the emotional energy. That's why I love astrology, because it allows me to depersonalize from my inner tendencies. Yeah, of course I'm like that. There's whatever, Ketu on the ascendant, of course. He's gonna show up with like a hoodie on, and have like all these tendencies and this type of thing. But this is just tendencies. And they're part of how our nervous system's wired. And I think the most valuable part of investigating the mind like this, or whether we're using astrology, yoga, or whatever we want, whatever we're using to understand ourselves, is to understand what our own natural benevolent biases are. I have a certain perspective of how I see the world and how I am and how I'm wired, and it's completely different from yours. And so I'm constantly learning about my own biases and tendencies, and as soon as I do that, then I can actually lean into them and have fun, Like I think the type of music I like is, I'm very opinionated about it, this type of thing. But it's all just bullshit. All my opinions are ultimately just, it's nothing, Nobody's opinions are superior to somebody else's. I don't care what kind of food you eat, how kind of like you think we've like finally woke up. When did you have your awakening? I don't know, I'm still in the process of it all the time. You know what I'm saying? So as soon as there starts to be this high-low thing, now it's more and more delusion. It's polarities. So I'm trying to understand what is there that exists beyond my biases, beyond my opinions and other people's opinions, and what is at the real kind of nucleus of this thing that animates and gives life to us all. And I want to stay in alignment with that. That's what yoga practice is about for me, to stay in alignment with that. So then I just enjoy myself. I love myself. And even my neuroses are included in that love. Especially my neuroses are included in that love. And I think that's a nice way to live. Because if you can really genuinely love yourself, everything else flows from there. These yoga practices gave me the experience that allow me to love myself and like find myself really cool and fascinating. And of course, like there was an ego ballooning in that process, and that had to get purified, and it's still always being purified. That's what relationships are for. Everyone's like, oh my God, they're so, all our Disneyland Cinderella and we romanticize everything, but what really is gonna happen is the ego is gonna get totally purified, and it's gonna be a And it's going to be blissfully wonderful too, of course. Those go hand in hand. I love it. Bring on the bliss, even if that means a chiseling to get to the bliss, if it's real bliss. And the real bliss comes from us truly experiencing life and what reality is. And we can only do that with ourselves. Your way you are is totally different than every other person. So there's no other person that can tell you about you, ultimately. When I have to go through the door of death, I'm going by myself. So why am I going to be codependent down here? And these are, it's heavy, but it's not. It's also light. We're dying all the time. We're going through deaths and rebirths. It's all transformation. And if we can lean into that in a way that's not rushed, that's more of a love affair than it is self-improvement. You know what I mean? I'm not really into self-improvement. What do I need to improve? I'm doing my best already. And so self-love, I think, is is a nice way of kind of pursuing it. But this real self-love to me always includes you. You see what I mean? Because how can I really, this is all one intertwined web. So if I'm over here feeling like I can only love myself, so the most, I think, important part of self-love is giving myself the experience of real compassion. And in order for me to give myself the experience of real compassion, I have to admit to my suffering and to recognize it. And then when I do that, I know you suffer too. We're all here together. And when I know what my suffering feels like, and that means I can feel compassion for your suffering and vice versa. And you see, and it's just love back and forth. And that becomes a blissful way of life, to go inside, to experience the self, and through that experience of the self, having the experience of interconnectedness, that my happiness is totally dependent on my relationship to you, to every being. One relationship is hard enough, all living beings. So the one relationship is the most right in front of us that we have. But at a more subtle level is, what is my inner relationship to life in general? Giving to life, taking from life. Even when you get up in the morning and doing some just domestic stuff and worldly chores, you can give to life. That's what I realized going over to places like India. Just in the culture, they're just giving to life. Everything is a prayer in these ancient cultures, indigenous cultures here. Everything is a prayer. It's giving to life. So it's not just compassion necessarily in the sense of towards other beings and our inner feelings, but it's a way of life of just having a feeling of the preciousness of what it is to be alive, and to give thanks for that, and to strengthen that muscle in the mind and the heart. And then all the more difficult ones, man, they have a basket to sit in that allows us to navigate our suffering and come out the other side of it in bliss and in love, and not in depression and despair, because it chiseled us. And now you can get more of the real me. All right, sorry to interrupt all our exercises. Hands are like this, and the pelvic floor is lifted up, and inhale left. Hey, thanks for watching on YouTube. Best easy way to stay in touch with us, hit the subscribe button here. You'll see our videos when they come up. If you enjoyed this one, hit the like button. It'll help more people see it, help the channel grow. I appreciate you watching.